This is May 24th lesson for Joy Class. The title is Grace to the Dying Thief. It has a purpose that we are to learn to listen to Jesus' words of grace and hope in our dying. This is in Luke, and it talks about when he is arrested. It says the whole assembly rose and led him off to Pilate. They're talking about Pontius Pilate. And when they began to accuse him, saying, "We have found this man subverting our nation. He opposes the payment of taxes to Caesar and claims to be Messiah, a king." And Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "You have said so," Jesus replied. Like him already. Then Pilate announced to the chief priests of the crowd, "I find no basis for a charge against this man." But they insisted. "He stirs up people all over Judea by his teachings. He started in Galilee, has come all the way here." Well, when Pontius Pilate heard that, he thought, "Oh, that man must be Galilean." When he learned that Jesus was under Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him off to Herod, who was also in Jerusalem at that time. When Herod saw Jesus, he was greatly pleased, because for a long time he had been waiting to see him. From what he had heard about him, he hoped to see him perform a sign of some sort. He plied with him many questions, but Jesus gave him no answer. The chief priests and teachers of the law were standing there and vehemently accusing him. Then Herod and his soldiers ridiculed and mocked him. Dressing him in an elegant robe, they sent him back to Pilate. That day Herod and Pilate became friends. Before this, they had been enemies. Pilate called together his chief priests, rulers of the people, and said to them, "You brought me this man as one who is inciting the people to rebellion. I have examined him in your presence and have found no basis for your charges against him. Neither has Herod, for he sent him back to us, and as you can see, he has done nothing to deserve death. Therefore, I will punish him and then release him." And they got nuts. They started screaming and hollering and carrying on. And you have to remember, Barabbas had been thrown into prison for insurrection in the city and for murder. And wanting to release Jesus, Pilate appealed to the crowd again, but they kept shouting, "Crucify him, crucify him." For the third time he spoke to them. "Why? What crime has this man committed? I have found him no grounds for the death penalty. Therefore, I will have him punished and then release him." But the crowd was just vehement. With loud shouts, they insistently demanded he be crucified. And their shouts prevailed. So Pilate decided to grant their demand. He released the man, Barabbas, who had been thrown into prison for insurrection and murder, and the one they asked for, and surrendered Jesus to their will. The crucifixion of Jesus. As the soldiers led him away, they seized Simon of Cyrene, who was on his way in from the country, and put a cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. A large number of people followed him, including women who mourned and wailed for him. Jesus turned and said to them, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. Weep for yourselves, for your children. For a time will come when you will say, Blessed are the childless women, the wombs that never bore, the breasts that never nursed. Then they will say to the mountains, Fall on us, and to the hills, cover us. For the people do these things when the tree is green. What will happen when it is dry?" I had a hard time with that, and I couldn't figure out what he was trying to say. It was a wet season, and everything had turned green. But when it's a dry season, everything is bad. As they took Jesus out, they had 2 criminals that were also with him to be executed. When they came to a place called the Skull, that's what Luke called it, it's also been called Golgotha, they crucified him there along with the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. And they divided up his clothes and casting lots. The people stood watching, and the rulers even sneered at him, they said, he saved others, let him save himself if he's God's Messiah, the chosen one. The soldiers came up and mocked him. They offered him wine vinegar. And they said, if you are the king of the Jews, save yourself. There was a written notice above him. The sign said, this is the king of the Jews. One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us. But the other criminal rebuked the first criminal, saying, don't you fear God, he said. Since you are under the same sentence, we are punished justly for what we are getting, of what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus looked at him and said, truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise. Gives us something to ponder. What we will do, how we will act, what we will be. Let's close. Father Almighty, thank you for beckoning to us to be your spirits and be your guiders. Lord, let us be as best we can be and understand the things that the Lord wants us to understand. Sometimes it's not easy. Trial and error. But we'll get it. It just takes a little time. In his precious name, amen.